Good afternoon, Jessica.
Hi, John. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Excellent. Same here. Absolutely appreciate your time. It's absolutely a pleasure to have you as our CTO News Thursday guest. Brilliant. So, to begin with, Jessica, please could you introduce yourself to the CTO News Thursday audience?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on this, John. I've watched your vlog for a while. So my name is Jessica Popp. I'm the CTO for Ada, which is a startup in the conversational AI space focusing on the chat experience. And Ada is a fully remote company headquartered in Toronto, Ontario, and I live and work from Boulder, Colorado. And I've been in software my entire career, starting in the mid 90s when I graduated university.
Excellent. Wow, that's a wealth of experience there. Amazing. So, what was it like growing up in a military household in the US?
I think for me, the biggest impact for me was about the experience because of the frequency with moving around. Like most military kids need to move around quite a bit to keep up with their military parent. And for me, being shy, it really didn't help being that new kid in school many different times. But the upside was a sense of kind of resilience and being able to count on myself for what I needed. And as an introvert, I didn't really need constant companionship. So I really did well with that independent time as well. I'm extraordinarily proud to be a child of someone that was in the military. And so I think, that offsets for me personally any challenges that might have happened as a result of moving around quite a bit.
Absolutely. I fully agree. I had the pleasure of whether be going to school with a number of military children. Back then, they were known as BFPO children. And so, yeah, absolutely appreciate your environment. Great. So, how did you get into IT and what fascinated you with physics and high performance computing?
Yeah, when I started my career, and maybe I'll start a little bit with kind of my career today, like the first 10 years out of school, I was building in-house software for companies like Capital One. And that's kind of where the largest part of engineering opportunity was. The first dot-com bust hadn't even happened. And so you worked in IT in a company building the software they needed. And I kind of did that for my first 10 years, hands-on engineering, QA, project management, had my first manager roles. And then I moved out to Colorado coincidentally. And so I was looking for something new. And I ended up at a startup that was in high performance computing. So it was my first startup. There were only about 100 people. And we were building an open source parallel file system that had a really niche use case in research and science, a lot of labs. And at one point, this particular file system was one of the file systems that was used to collect data for the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. And I love physics as a layperson and the math. I clearly am not experienced in this. So, separate from being on a team that was building that software, it was super exciting just to think about the fact that I was working on something that was contributing to, the greater science of figuring out the universe. I spent about 10 years in high performance computing, and really, really an opportunity to learn about truly large scale computing, managing large government contracts. And then kind of for the last 5 years, I moved over to SaaS. I was really intrigued by what was going on with SaaS, having worked on like products that where you build a release, you put the release out, people use it for a year, they wait for a patch set. Just the idea of software as a service, I'm like, this is where, I want to be. And that's been a leadership trajectory for me to understand, what it means to work with managed software, and has brought me through few companies to where I am today.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing. I think that's once again a wealth of experience, and I think to work at the Hadron Collider, you are a scientist.
I didn't work there, but our software
It's your
was there.
software
So
right there.
it was
Absolutely.
very exciting as a third party.
Yes, yes, yes. Brilliant. Okay. So, Jessica, what challenges are Ada solving in the UX customer experience space using AI?
Yeah, I really enjoy this space. I've been in this space for a while. The last product I worked on was a CCaaS product, and so the problem statement here is that customers really want to talk to brands and get their questions and issues answered any time of the day, right? It's no longer acceptable to wait for, a phone line that's open certain hours to solve our problem. We'd rather use social channels. And so we're seeing a real pivot in the customer support, customer experience arena, that it is about providing that excellent customer experience. And customers want that 24/7, and AI makes that possible. And so the challenge is here, specifically with AI. We've all seen and experienced AI and chatbots and et cetera. But the challenge is providing an experience that's as good or better than the one you would get by talking to a live person. So it actually may become preferential for you to experience the AI experience over coordinating a phone call. And so we've moved beyond that, just generally answering questions. But you have to be able to solve the problem. So it's not enough anymore for a chatbot to say, if you didn't receive your package, please call 1-800, during the hours of 9 to 5 that are really inconvenient for you. Now it needs to be able to actually recognize me, look up my account, tell me my package is going to be late, or tell me my package should have been there and I didn't get it, and then give me the opportunity to actually remediate that, file a claim, my package never showed up. And you need to be able to do that all through a automated chat interaction.
Yeah, absolutely understood. I think, we're seeing a lot of sort of the omni-channel convergence within that sort of chatbot environment. And I am aware and I am familiar with some environments that, say, for example, banks have, well, they did introduce in terms of using telephone authentication to identify yourself. Well, that's becoming more of an online proposition via chatbots and widgets, etc. So absolutely understood. Excellent. So every leader's goal on paper is to build high-performing teams. What's your leadership approach on this?
Yeah, I look at this from two perspectives. One, as a leader, I have to provide an environment where engineers can be successful. So it has to be interesting work. It has to have low toil. They have to have the tools and the actual ability to get work done. And so that's kind of table stakes. And then you have to find a way to part ways with your low performers. That's the harder part of leadership. But that's the role of a leader, is to create that environment for the entire team. A low performer doesn't just perform poorly for themselves. They actually drag down the performance of the entire team, either through needing extra help, or you find where people start working around someone because they're not able to keep up with the work. And high performers want to work with other high performers. I recently read the Netflix No Rules book, and they give a great analogy of this, right? A high performing team is a sports team. It's not a family, right? And so you still love and respect all the people you worked with, but they may not be the best person for your sports team to win the game. And then, once you do that, I rotate back to providing that environment, right? You have to unblock the roadblocks that prevent them from doing good work. Tool chains are often a big one, clear prioritization, support for quality. And I find that those two work together to create a high performance team over time.
Okay, so that I absolutely agree with you, Jessica, and that's an approach that we absolutely do look at here at IT Labs. All right, so every leader has a litany of successful projects they have done. Can you tell me about one of the big mistakes or missteps you have taken?
Absolutely. We all have banks of these in our leadership or even engineering experience. And if we say we don't, we're kind of kidding ourselves. So I was stepping into, this was several years ago, I was stepping into a new SaaS product that had just gone GA. It really wasn't ready to be GA. And so my role was to take this product that had customers on it and try to shore up the functionality, hit the SLAs for the customers, support those customers, and still start closing some feature gaps. And this was at a large SaaS company of several thousand employees. And I remember a time where we were taking on customers much faster than we had planned. Great problem to have, right? Customers want your product, they're adopting it. But we realized that we had a scaling issue on the engineering side. So we had a bottleneck in the system, that if we actually hit that bottleneck, the entire system for all our customers could fall over. So as your listeners with SaaS know, in a multi-tenant solution, you have to protect each tenant. And we had a situation where we could have a cascading issue. And so I had to make a decision. There are two paths to take here. One, try to fix it in the background as fast as you can, or publicly own up to the issue. And I decided to publicly own up to the issue, and I had to go to the CRO of the company, as you know, all the sales folks the hundreds of sales folks reported to this person, and ask them to stop closing deals on this product and tell them I needed up to 2 months to figure out how to fix this. That I took the stance that my role as an engineering leader is to protect the customers I have first. I have a responsibility to them to give them a system that's up. And that was a hard discussion. And this person took it really well. Like, you know, I mean, it was not a comfortable conversation, to say that, but I was given the space, and we went and found what our short-term fixes could be, et cetera, and we could turn it on. We turned it back on within a few weeks. But just the idea of having to have that conversation was a big moment of saying, my product is failing you. So that's one that'll stick with me.
So that's great to hear, Jessica. And I think it just demonstrates your ability to resolve solutions, difficult, challenging solutions that is acceptable to all parties involved.
Painful, but acceptable. And I think sometimes it's fine for it to be painful, right?
Yeah, I agree. Okay. So which technologies are you focusing on currently for Ada's roadmap, i.e. tech for geeks versus tech for the business?
So I am completely on the side of the fence of tech for business, right? I'm in engineering inside SaaS companies because I'm there to deliver value to the business through delivering a product for customers. So for us, we have a pretty standard tech stack for a SaaS company. We offer a solution that's hosted on AWS, as many, many companies around the world do. And we really focus on what the best tech stack and tooling is that solves the business needs at hand, and building for the customers. Now we're looking at changes along the way, like the original language that we chose to do development. Does it make sense as we scale? But we choose a pivot in that as it serves the business and the outcomes, not because, oh, what's the most popular language right now? And I find that always works out fine. It's not about picking tech for novelty. That never drives the best business outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're seeing across the sector. Sometimes, back in the day, everyone wanted to have Perl developers, for example, but no one wants to work on Perl. I wouldn't say nobody, but
I was like, that is back in the day, John.
Yes. Yeah, well, I absolutely understand. You need to be fleet of foot, and you need to be able to adapt to the various programming languages that's relevant for the business and strategic objectives as well. Okay. So what has Ada put in place for its staff to unplug every month?
Yeah, I think so building a SaaS company for any of us is a really competitive business. It's very fast paced. And it's even, at least from my perspective, it's become more acute since the pandemic. And a balance is, we've seen it, at least in the States, it's become kind of de rigueur to offer unlimited vacation. But the data actually shows you that most employees take the same or less vacation in those models. And so we want to really encourage that rest and refresh at Ada. And so we offer, an additional, I think it's about 10 company holidays a year. And what we do is, these are in addition to your country stat holidays, and they're meant to give all Ada owners regular time away to recharge and refresh. And I always find, at least for myself, it's really valuable when everybody has the same day off. Like if I take a Friday off and Slack's still going on and there's still noise, it's harder to unplug than if I know that the entire company's off on that day. And so that's been a really innovative thing that I think Ada's done to take care of its employees. Excellent.
That's a great format and a great company to be working at, from what it sounds. Excellent. So, did the pandemic show you anything regarding remote teams and outsourcing that could benefit?
For me specifically, no. I've worked remotely. My first remote global team was in 2005. This was just when Skype was coming on the scene. So I even had a year or two with just IRC. internet relay chat, for those that might not be familiar. But what I think it showed during this time is it showed any remaining holdout companies that really thought we had to all be in person. They realized we could be successful using a remote model. And the company I was working at was very much, you need to be in the office. And we all learned collectively, wow, we can still get a lot done. A lot of us live in major metropolitan areas where the commute was just, 2 hours each day. We were all forced into the experiment, whether we wanted to or not. But I think, like many topics in business and leadership, this is going to be a pendulum. I think in another 5 or 10 years, we'll see the public opinion swing again. And I won't be surprised if we're looking at, let's go back to the office in, 5, 7 years from now.
You're absolutely 100% correct. And I've spoken to a number of technology leaders who said exactly what you said. It falls in iterations, in cycles, i.e., it's all about bringing it in-house and taking it out of house, but it goes in cycles, and it may be, over a period of, say, 2 to 3 years, it's in-house, and then the next 2 to 3 years is outsource, nearshore, offshore, onshore, etc. So absolutely understood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel gender bias has had a negative effect on your career?
Well, I can't point to it directly. But I think I'd be naive to say that since I've been in career for more than 25 years, that I haven't been touched by it. I expect that on average, statistically, I was promoted more slowly than my male colleagues. But at the same time, I also realize I do hold privilege being a white person over other minorities. So I think it's a really complex issue. So I don't personally spend any effort on the past of what could have been, but I spend more effort now championing what should be for everyone. And I think we're seeing, it's a slow movement. It's like we talked about with the pendulum before, it's up and down and back and forth. At first it was all about measuring the consistent promotion rates, and making sure. I think that's a great first step, but there's a lot of unconscious bias that we all need to be really aware of in terms of, are people getting all of the same opportunities so that they can achieve, so that they can succeed for the promotion? So I think it's, I feel very fortunate how far I've made it in my career. It's been a lot of hard work. And I think the future is figuring out how we give more diverse opportunities to more diverse people over time.
Absolutely agreed. It's not about looking backwards, it's about looking forward and how to be more inclusive. And as you just said, giving more opportunities to those who are deserving and they need that break in their careers. So that's really great to hear. All right. So what advice would you give your 18-year-old self if you had another chance?
I love this question. When you shared it with me, I thought about it for a while, and I think I would love to do this. If you actually gave me the time today, I would go back and tell my 18-year-old self there's not a destination. That I should choose a journey that I'm going to enjoy, that I need to stop and smell the roses along the way, and that rushing to each next step in my career calls for sacrifices and lost experiences that I can never get back. And I'm super happy with where I am. I do love my career, but by being a person that's very driven, I think I thought there was something I needed to accomplish or get to, and then all of a sudden there would be time to relax and bask in the glow. It doesn't exist. I would ask myself to go back and find a little more balance earlier in my life.
100% agreed. Once again, that's something that I would have done myself. I would have said it's all about the journey, not about the destination to some extent.
Yeah, maybe you and I can go find Back to the Future, and we can go back to that same date, have a little chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what innovative projects are you currently working on that you're able to talk about?
Like any company, we're always working to extend, our product capabilities through adding channels. But the real innovation for the space I work in is in the AI and ML space. And there's two that I think about right now. And one is, if you picture, if you're not familiar what it looks like to set up a chat experience in an automated way, generally someone sits down and collects all the corpus of information. What kind of questions do we think our customers are going to ask? What actions do they need to do? But then you put that out in the wild and you need to make sure it's successful. So one thing we've been working on is automatic training suggestions. So what this is it starts to collect what kind of questions are customers actually asking, not necessarily the ones you thought they might. And then it comes back and offers, this is how you should improve or train your model. Please add these questions. We'll suggest them to you for you to approve. And that helps you really improve that model over time in an automated way. So it captures that data from the customer that came in, as well as suggests automatically to you how to remediate that for the future. And the other one I really like right now is, if you think of this as a vast space, say you've built hundreds or thousands of questions a customer might ask you, or things they might want to do. How do you understand what that looks like, that your customers are doing it? And so we've been building a visual graph that will describe where questions are asked and what you're answering and where you have gaps in that graph. So you can look at it and say, oh my gosh, customers are asking questions over here, or, oh my gosh, we're providing the wrong answer a lot over here. And it's in a visual way. So you can go and then you can dive into that visual graph and understand how to improve the system. And so those for me are really exciting, because it's about using the ML in the background to understand, not just to build the model so they can use it, but then create that feedback loop based on how customers are actually interacting with the models to continually improve them.
Once again, that's an absolutely fantastic answer. I think, no, honestly, it is. And I'll tell you why. It's because, within the space, I've had conversations with a number of CTOs who have the ability to use AI and ML to better inform their decision making. However, in some environments, it's quite difficult to articulate. And to be able to do that, as you've articulated, is a great achievement. So it's not an easy thing. Even though we've got these fantastic tools and technologies, you've still got to be able to demonstrate value. And for some environments, it's difficult to do. So for you to be able to do that, it's really a great thing.
Yeah, and I can't take credit. I have to give credit to the head of our machine learning organization and all the amazing scientists that work in that group. We have an amazing team, and they come up with some of the really amazing ideas to do this work.
Brilliant. I'd love to meet them sometime.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So what's keeping you awake at night?
Overall, regardless of what SaaS product I work on, uptime is the thing I worry about most. I care, as I mentioned earlier, I care deeply about our customers and their experience. And my role is to make sure that what we build and provide, the customers can count on. And so as engineers, we do everything to keep our systems up and running, but there is always going to be an incident, and we work quickly to restore it. But I know that every minute there's an impact in an incident is a minute I'm impacting each of my customers. And so I feel really good about the uptime we have on the product. I've had other products where I had reason to lose sleep, but it's what I care deeply about when I provide my product to my customer.
Once again, customer first. I work in the social housing sector. Yeah. And I work with some really fantastic sort of technologists in that space, and it's always about the resident. And I can attribute that to your environment, where it's always about the customer and trying to give the customer what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. So really great to hear. All right. So my next question is, what is your superpower?
I would say probably my superpower is probably a little different than a lot of CTOs. I would say it's my ability to look around corners and predict what's going to happen. Comes from years and years of large scale project management, which is all about, let me figure out everything that might go wrong with this large project and try to prevent it. And then my EQ, I can easily read a room and I can tell the mood, like, what are the emotions, regardless of what anybody's saying? Are people agreeing? Are they accepting? Are they disagreeing? Have they checked out? And I'm able to adapt what my message is or the conversation, so I can keep everyone in the room engaged and focused. And so I can sense if something's gone sideways, and I can pause and say, okay, I feel like we're not in alignment on this. And then we can actually get to the root of the issue versus letting everybody leave the meeting and then disagreeing or not committing to an idea. And so I would say that's where I spend my superpower energy.
Excellent. I think to have a live EQ that's always in motion is always a good thing. So great to hear. Fantastic. Okay, so what do you do outside of work, and what do you do in your spare time, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. I love living in Colorado, so there is a lot of outdoor time. I used to be an avid runner. As I get older, it's a lot more hiking and some biking, a little bit of skiing. It's a little terrifying to see me ski. And then, as I've gotten older, I've really gotten into meditation, the mindfulness practice of being present, and as we engage in these really challenging careers that ask a lot of us, learning how to find that quiet space, and so that's been a practice I've been developing over the last few years.
Amazing, great to hear. That's the yin and yang
I guess it
of
is.
yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely appreciate you sharing that. There's a lot of synergies there that I think a lot of our guests will be able to sort of sink in with. So thanks for sharing. So, Jessica, that brings us to the end of our CTO News Thursday vlog episode with yourself. And I'd just like to thank you for your time. It's actually been riveting learning about yourself, learning about Ada and the great work that you're doing. And, from IT Lab CTO News Thursday, we just like to wish you all the best in your endeavors. Let me hand over to you.
Thank you so much, John. I love being here. I loved getting to meet you and learn what you do as well in your career. And so it's been my pleasure to contribute to the overall community today. So thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. And we look forward to featuring you in more of our CTO News Thursday vlog series. Thank you.
Thanks so much, John. My pleasure.